Welcome to the next episode of Why You're Not Rich Yet. This is reason number 4 of the top 10 things slowing or stopping your wealth. And it's my favorite topic of all. It is wisdom. And yes, if someone can prove a god of wisdom wrong, aka Hermes Trismegistus, then I will give them $10,000. But just a heads up, I've challenged a lot of people to this. No one's been able to do it thus far. And specifically, we're going over 7 Hermetic principles, aka natural laws, aka universal laws. And of course, I know this is a wealth channel, and the focus of this channel is on wealth. So we're going to tie all of it back into how you can use this knowledge to scale your wealth even further. And if anyone proves it wrong, not only will I give you $10,000, but I will also give you free access to the full automatic income scaling program, which personally I feel like is worth millions, because you're going to get access to all of our winning opportunities, our full strategy, and our wealth scaling strategies, which I feel like will make you wealthy for a lifetime. So to me, that's worth far more. And if you want it, I'll also give you a shout out on YouTube. And I know I'm going to take a lot of heat for talking about God and gods, because it's such a touchy subject, right? And I want to take a moment to say I work with people very into spirituality and not into spirituality at all. I'm cool with whether you're into God or not. Personally, I feel very connected to a higher power I often refer to as the Holy Spirit. You can call it God or all types of stuff. To me, it's all the same thing. And I also feel like divine beings that a lot of these cultures and religions talk about really exist, right? Like personally, I feel like Jesus does exist, personally, I feel more connected going to what I call the Holy Spirit first. And I've had people tell me that I'm going to go to hell if I don't pledge my soul to Jesus or this or that. So I'm not really interested in hearing all about that personally, but I will say that I do feel like Jesus and a lot of these other people did exist. I feel that Jesus achieved this state called Christ Conscious 13. And I also feel that Buddha, Krishna, and a lot of other beings achieve that while in a human body as well, which is not a popular belief. But I will also say, because Jesus is the most popular one in the world right now, there are so many records of Jesus studying these exact principles, right? And applying these principles to increase his own influence and reach. So these are super powerful. It is way beyond just creating wealth. So I'm very excited and honored. I'm very honored to be able to share such powerful and divine information. And legend has it, a ton of people say this, that your first exposure to these Hermetic principles, aka universal laws, will increase your wisdom and your power by tenfold. That's the legend. And a bunch of people are probably wondering to themselves, if this is about money, why do you even have to bring up God, and does this have to do with me being rich? If you look through the wealthiest societies throughout history, around the world, and the most powerful and influential societies throughout history that happen to have multiple gods, what you'll see almost every single time is that the gods of wealth are the same as the gods of wisdom. And thanks to Marvel, probably the most popular example is Odin of the Nordic religion. He is considered to be the god of wisdom to the Nordic religion. I know, this picture is fire. This is an amazing picture. But he's considered to be the god of wisdom to the Nordic religion, but he's also considered to be the god of wealth. How about India? The most popular lord of wisdom is Ganesh. right? And guess who's the Lord of Wealth? Also Ganesh. How about Greece? One of the most influential societies of all time, especially in Western culture. Well, they had a god of wisdom called Hermes Trismegistus. And legend has it, Zeus's lightning came from Hermes. And not only did his lightning come from Hermes, but all of his power came from Hermes. And guess what? Hermes was not only the god of wisdom, he was also the god of wealth for Greece as well. And that's who's credited for the Hermetic Principles by a lot of different sources. A lot of people say they existed well before Hermes, so there's debate about who gets credit for it, but whatever. We're not going to worry about the who gets credit for it. However, I can go on and on about the connection between wisdom and wealth, and the gods of wisdom and the gods of wealth in the most influential and wealthiest societies throughout this world's history. I can go on, but I'm only going to give one more example for now, just because you can't do business in the United States and most Western cultures without saying words that are named in honor of this god. And that is Mercury, right? So Mercury comes from Rome, and Rome nearly took over the world and was definitely the wealthiest society at the time. I'm not saying that's a good thing to nearly take over the world, but nonetheless, they took all the Greek gods and changed the names and said that they were their gods. And one of them was Mercury, who actually is the same as Hermes Trismegistus. And yes, we have days named from this time and planets named from this society. They're influencing this world. And Mercury, I'm going to prove to you, you cannot do business in the United States without saying words in honor of Mercury. So first one we're going to start with is merchandise. Mercury, merchandise. That's where the word comes from. Etymology is a study of like where languages and words come from, and you can trace all the words I'm about to share with you back to Mercury. And merchandise, that's just buying and selling goods and commodities, right? So every time you're buying and selling physical things, you refer to it with the word named in honor of Mercury, the god of wealth and wisdom. What about merchants? Every time you swipe a card, it goes through a merchant processor. When someone's sending money from one person to another, sending money through a merchant. Well, buying and selling things, merchant, is all named in honor of Mercury. And another example, I'm going to give you just like a couple more examples real quick, just to show you how powerful the connection is between wisdom and wealth. All right, so we have commerce, e-commerce. That's pretty much has all the exact letters and sounds of Mercury. And the word commerce comes from the word Mercury, which refers to all business and all ways of making money. Comes from a word honoring a god of wealth and a god of wisdom. And one more example, just to really nail this home, markets. You buy food, you buy fluids, you need where you get your sustenance, everything you need to survive. That is named in honor of Mercury. And markets also refer to stock markets, foreign exchange markets, crypto markets. These are the areas that create the most millionaires and billionaires. And the word we use to refer to these areas is named in honor of a god of wealth and a god of wisdom. And I just went off. I know I went off. I'm just trying to make you understand the deep-rooted connection between wisdom and wealth, because the wealthiest people throughout history all respect wisdom, 100% of them. And wisdom is so much more than money. It is so much more than money. So some super wise people create impacts in other ways beyond money. That's totally cool. But the gods of wealth and the words we use to describe doing business and getting money in this country are named in honor of a god of wisdom. So now I'm going to get a little more practical in how you can use wisdom to scale your wealth. And these principles, aka laws, are so powerful that it is way beyond money. But so is being rich, right? Anyways, wisdom. In order to really acquire the wisdom that's going to create the most benefit in our lives, I definitely feel like it's valuable to distill wisdom in the easiest to understand way and in a way that will have the biggest effects that we're trying to create in our life. And my two favorite definitions of achieving this is 1, knowledge in action, and 2, why applied. All right, so we're going to break these down right now. So knowledge, just knowing information, right? And in action. See, this is where most people go wrong, that are smart but don't know how to create the results that they want to create. And that's why you can see some super intellectual people that can say facts and all these birthdays and details and all this kind of stuff. And next thing you know, they're broke, or they're sad or lonely, or don't have relationships, and that's because knowing isn't enough. It needs to be coupled with action, but also not all knowledge is created equal, right? So this is another gem of wisdom that's going to increase your wisdom tremendously. The value of knowledge. How much is this knowledge going to create benefits in your life? How effective, how important is this knowledge? How do you gauge that? Well, the way that you can gauge the value of knowledge is by what effects is it going to create in your life? How much benefit is it going to create in your life? What is the impact it's going to create in your life? And some things will have just a little bit of impact and a little bit of effect if, of course, they're put into action and put to use. But some things that if you learn will completely just affect so much of your life and create such a massive impact in your life. And legend has it, these 7 Hermetic principles affect every aspect of our lives and every aspect of this universe. And I'm so confident that these laws do it, that once again, if you prove these laws wrong, I will give you 10,000 freaking dollars, which will mess up my monetary plans a little bit over the next month or two. But that's how much confidence I have in these universal laws. And just to put some ground rules down to this game, first of all, there are people who've been teaching this for years. This is my first video about this concept, and I want to give a big shout out to Mark Passio, who I would say delivers this better than anyone I've seen this. I put a link in the description to his talk about it. But someone else who does an absolutely great job is Ralph Smart. By the way, Mark Passio is really aggressive and to the point and not palatable for most people. Ralph Smart is very smooth and loving, and a lot of people will find it easier to watch his video about the Hermetic Principles. But first, you gotta watch one or the other, because a lot of people, if you don't really understand it, I don't want to just waste time, just telling you how you don't understand it when you're just trying to get 10,000 bucks. No, you have to watch a full, in-depth, really understand it if you're trying to challenge it for 10,000 bucks. And another thing is some of these principles, if you're saying that God's above it, okay, sure, that's an argument that I could understand, right? But still, it's universal laws. You have to say it doesn't apply to the universe to prove it wrong. If you show how it doesn't apply to the universe, then yes. And some people will say, oh, well, in higher dimensions, the law of polarity or rhythm just doesn't apply. Well, it applies to the whole universe still, because there's this third dimensional aspect to this universe. And if that went over your head, don't worry, it'll make sense besides the higher dimensional part as we dive into it. And once again, I'm going to give practical examples of how you could use each thing to increase your wealth and create positive impacts in each area of your life. And now that we have the ground rules and proper perspective of how powerful this is, we're going to jump right into these legendary universal laws, aka Hermetic principles. The first principle is the principle of mentalism. And the most famous book talking about the Hermetic principles, which if you really want to dive deep, definitely check out this book, is the Kybalion. And in the Kybalion, they state the all is mind, the universe is mental. And the word the all is just a very easy way to refer to everything that's ever existed. Everything that's ever existed is the all. And what they mean by the universe is mental is that everything that's created had to exist in the mind first. It existed as thoughts or potentialities in the mind. And you've all heard of the make up your mind phrase. Oh, I made up my mind. Well, every time you do anything, you make up your mind to do that first, right? And this is why I said the mind is the number one thing stopping people from being wealthy, and why that was episode 1 of the Why You're Not Rich Yet series, is because most people don't take responsibility for their mind. Most people don't understand how the mind works and how to shape their mind for what they want to create. Yeah. So we all know that successful people, and you can see this, successful people tend to take a lot of responsibility for their actions, whether it's making a lot of money, or athletes take a lot of responsibility for practice, and musicians take a lot of responsibility for making sure they know how to play their instrument or make their recording sound good, right? However, the most successful people of all time take responsibility for their thoughts, for their mind. And that's what video number 1 in this series dives super deep into, is how to direct your mind to create the things you want to create and get rid of the things you don't want in your life. Because when you can direct your mind, that's a superpower. That's a superpower. It gives you so much ability to create the things you want to create and get rid of the things in your life that you don't want to have in your life. So that is the first principle, the principle of mentalism. And I'll say it at least one more time. If you want a super deep dive into this, definitely check out Mark Passio and or Ralph Smart, who's more famously known as Infinite Waters. And you can also read the book, The Kybalion, who both of them quote over and over again. It's the most famous book focused on the Hermetic principles. Now we're going to dive into the next principle, which is the principle of correspondence. And this is often referred to as above and so below, as within, so without. If you look at the atoms that make up every physical component of the universe, it looks a lot like our solar system. And the way the electrons revolve around an atom is very similar to the way planets revolve around stars, and how our sun revolves around the galaxy. The core of the galaxy is Orion's belt. And if you look at the big picture and the small picture things, you'll see it's all repeating patterns. It's all repeating patterns, right? And this could be used in your life by understanding that your internal state is a reflection of what life is to you. So a lot of people try to change the external, right? Oh, if I just had more money, and if I just had a lovely relationship, and if I just had this and I just had that, then life would be great, right? Well, the thing is, to shape your outer world, to shape your existence, you do it by changing what you're being, changing what you are, because the world reflects back to you. And this is what we mean by beingness, right? And that whole topic in video 3 on how to control, like change your identity, aka what you are being. And when you change what you are being, you automatically change what you're doing, the actions you take. When you're internally being someone wealthy, then you start taking actions to create and expand your wealth. If you want to be in love, you must be love. Because if you're not being love, then you're not really in love, right? So that's what it means. And that's how you can use it in your life, is you realize if you want any external results, all you have to do is be it. The beingness, what you are being, it reflects back to you based on the law of correspondence. The small picture matches the big picture, the inside matches the outside. So that's how you can use it to create wealth. And if you really want to dive deep on how to shift what you are being, that's what video 3 is about, right? And then you can also say video 2 is related to this as well, because that's all about conquering fear, right? Because if you're fearful, then you're going to be reflecting scary things back to you in your external life. You're just going to find all these things to fear outside of yourself if you don't know how to conquer fear. But if you can use this law of correspondence, and one of the other laws will really help you transmute negative emotions into positive emotions. Transform is a word most of you guys would understand better. Transform negative emotions and positive emotions. Then you have more power to change what you're being, and as a result, more power to change the results and the experiences you have in this life. Woo! Does anyone think they can prove the God of Wealth wrong yet? Is anyone like, dang, bro, I'm stepping out of the matrix now? You are. You are. And now we're going to dive into the next principle, which is the principle of vibration. Any of y'all been to a restaurant or some area where you're just like, I don't like the vibes? Something's wrong with the vibes. And you just kind of get that sense that you're not going to like it, or it's not going to be a good fit for you, or vice versa. You meet somebody or you go somewhere and you're just like instantly like, wow, I like this person's vibes instantly off the bat. Well, the law of vibration is stating that everything in existence has a vibration, right? Everything in existence is constantly moving. Science shows that even the smallest particles in existence are constantly moving. I mean, electrons are moving anywhere from like, I don't know the exact percentage, from like 20% up to 80% the speed of light, constantly, right? Constantly. Everything in existence is moving. So everything in existence has a vibration, right? And people can use this to their advantage to create wealth or create what they want to create by first trusting vibrations. And I know that sounds very woo-woo to a lot of people. This concept is new for. But another thing is you can decide to shape your environment to create certain vibrations. AKA, if you want office space where it's very easy to focus, then you just create things that enhance the ability to focus, which usually is very minimalistic and simplistic. The more stuff you have to look at, usually the harder it is to focus, right? And if you want to create a space where you enhance romance or you enhance communication, then you can shape the area to have vibrations that enhance certain things you want to create in certain spaces, right? And feng shui, very popular in China, it means energy flow, but they've been studying this science for thousands of years and actually have scientific studies to show you could create certain dynamics in emotional states just by changing what you have in certain areas. And I gotta tell you, studying feng shui has allowed me to create a office space where I am able to focus more than I ever have in my life, and it's easy and it's fun, and also create other spaces in my living environment that support other things that I want in my life. So definitely respect the law of vibration, and yeah, you'll raise your vibes and create the exact vibes that you want in your life. Next up, we have the principle of polarity. And in the Kybalion, it says everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. So that was a lot of information, but let's make it a little simpler and more practical to understand. This means that everything that exists with an opposite, opposing, contrasting end. And for example, hot and cold. The opposite of hot is cold. The opposite of light is dark. The opposite of fast is slow. But it also says that all opposites are parts of a single whole. So hot, cold, they're both temperature, right? Light, dark, well, those are just both measures of light, right? And how this can be used is that every problem or negative thing for you in your life has an opposite, right? So you can look at everything you don't like and then say, what's the opposite? And then create the opposite. Just move the pole to what you want to experience until everything in your life is what you want to experience. Anything you don't like, what is the opposite? And then you just start creating the opposite. And I also feel like this is a super beautiful realization to know every single negative thing in experience is allowing people to experience the opposite, right? And knowing this, for example, a lot of people don't like darkness, even though sometimes it's useful. It helps promote deeper sleep. But darkness, if you have a movie in the middle of a sunny park, it's really hard to get immersed in the movie just because there's so much other stuff going around. But when you're in a dark movie theater, it makes the picture so much more vivid and engaging and real, right? So when you understand these concepts, you can use opposition to create exactly what you want to create. So definitely a very powerful principle. And next up, we have the principle of rhythm. The Kybalion says everything flows out and in. Everything has tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. So, what does this mean? It means everything in this universe is part of some type of cycle, right? People can rise, people can fall, tides can rise, tides can fall. All the planets are rotating, right? Okay, but let's come back down to earth. Let's get a little more practical, Kyle. How can I use this to make money and make my life better? Well, if you are experiencing any down points, just know all cycles have their high points and down points. and it's just part of a cycle. And if you can flow through it, then you can reach the positive part of the cycle towards what you want, right? Also, people who study these principles deeply will say, don't let yourself get too out of control, emotional high when things are great. If you notice, like super successful people, for the most part, like champions and stuff, they tend to be pretty even keeled all the time, right? And when you get way too happy about something, a lot of times you'll get sad 1 to 2 days later, just because nothing feels as good as that thing that just made you so happy, right? And this is going to be a very controversial topic too, but I actually think that's what all gays burned in hell in the Bible was referring to. Because gay at the time that was written meant excessively happy. Keyword excessively happy, right? Because joy, being in tune with the truth, and being loving and all that stuff's great, but we've all seen and maybe even experienced ourselves, like when someone becomes so happy, it's like they're like disconnecting from actuality or reality, right? And those same people that do that, they get so excessively happy that they detach from actuality or reality, are people that get super stressed out or start crying or having breakdowns. And that's what is meant by don't let yourself get too extreme in the poles. And if you could just stay consistent, where you realize that the negative or the hard or the not fun parts of creating things in your life are just part of the cycle, right? And when good things happen, you don't get so excessively happy you completely detach from actuality and reality and piss people off. Then you could just not have to stress and have so much more ease in dealing with the harder parts of the cycles of life, right? So understand it's all part of a cycle. And one more area where you can use rhythm to improve your life is trying to match the rhythms of the things you want into your life, right? I realized it's so easy for me to get into a gym and keep a healthy weight. By the way, I've lost 30 pounds since about a year ago, right? And one of the keys is a rhythm, right? Finding a rhythm of when I could eat and when I could work out. And I've worked out pretty much every single day. And when you find rhythms in alignment to what you want to create, it makes it so much easier to create any of the things that you actually want to create. So those are just some of the examples of how you can use the law, aka the principle of rhythm in your life. Next up, we have the most famous principle, which is the principle of cause and effect. And in the Kybalion, it says, every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause, everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. So, the law of cause and effect is the most famous. All of y'all have heard it in many different ways, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. In Eastern societies, karma originates from this law. And I know people define karma in some different ways, but every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Scientists, did you know Sir Isaac Newton, who we call the father of physics and who physics is based around his principles, took many of the fundamental principles that started the study of physics to, or like really got it going to the new caliber where it's at to this day. Well, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, cause and effect. In fact, multiple of the principles that make up physics and thermodynamics come from this one single law of cause and effect. And then the most popular book in the world right now is the Bible. It's influenced more things than pretty much any other book out there. And Jesus, going back to Jesus, he says, you reap what you sow, cause and effect. So, how could you use the law of cause and effect in your life? Well, everything you want to create requires a cause, and everything that you do will create a reaction, right? To really get the power of this law of cause and effect, first, and this is going to be really hard for some people, but you are at least partially responsible for every aspect of your life, right? And when you take responsibility for the life that you have, aka you become able to respond to life. Taking responsibility is gaining ability to respond. You need to realize that you cause a lot of the results in your own life. And when you take the responsibility over the results and take the responsibility to cause results, then you're becoming able to respond and able to create what you want to create in your life. And this is extremely controversial, which I'm about to say, and not everyone who talks about these principles agrees with this, but I personally feel like being able to be an effect is as powerful as being a cause. And let me explain what I mean. When you want to learn or be something new, you are being affected by something that's making you change. And anytime you learn something new, you're being affected by knowledge, right? So I personally feel like it's as important to let yourself be affected by the things you want to change you as it is to be at cause. To me, they're both equally as powerful, because the more you can learn, the more assistance you can get from people that actually helps what you're trying to cause, the greater effects and results you'll be able to create. So we'll get more into that because it totally applies to the next principle. But one more thing that masters of this principle realize is that cause and effect is essentially reinforcing that time is an illusion. And I'll get into this right away, so bear with me. So everything that's ever happened creates this moment. This moment is a result of everything that's led up to it, everything that's ever happened, aka the past. And the future is created by everything that's happening right now and everything that's already happened. So it is perfectly in alignment, in that when you realize that everything that happens is a result of all the causes before it, and all the causes that are happening right now are shaping the future, then you see how future and past are all part of the present, right? And another thing I'm just going to take this moment to point out is, well, if you live too much in the past, it's often an indicator of sadness. And if you live too much in the future, it's often an indicator of anxiety and stress. There's a lot of self-help gurus who say, forget the past and stop thinking about the future. It's all about the present. Well, there are benefits from the past and the future that can help you improve your present, because it's all presence, right? And while it is negative to spend too much time thinking about the past and too much time thinking about the future, if you spend some time thinking about the past, you can learn a ton of information, right? And if you spend some time thinking about the future, you can visualize and really think about exactly how you want to create the future for you. And when you know the cause and effects, you realize the past and future is just part of the present, because presence is the only real moment. That's another controversial topic. Anyways, we are now on to the final principle. Do you think you could prove a God of wealth and wisdom wrong yet? Well, you get one more opportunity. And this is the principle of gender. This principle states, gender is everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. Wow. So, pretty much there's masculine and feminine components to everything in existence. And masculine is often associated with the causation principle, and feminine's often associated with the receiving principle. So the sending and receiving. This is where Mark Passio just goes off on describing the differences between masculine and feminine. However, if you look at, and I'm going to go back actually to how I was saying Jesus achieved Christ conscious 13, and the Buddha and Krishna, by my research, achieved Christ consciousness level 13. And one thing you realize about these beings who are some of the wisest and most conscious and aware of all time is that they had masculine and feminine attributes, and they really communicated that both were equally as valuable. That's one thing they all had in common, is that they didn't say masculinity is great and femininity is bad, or femininity is great and masculinity is bad. No, they said they both are important, and we all have masculine and feminine attributes. And one thing I personally see in the United States is men are told to be masculine and women are told to be feminine, and this is transitioning into a healthier balance in this day and age. It used to be way worse 100 years ago, but one thing many of you guys watching this have heard is that big boys don't cry and big girls don't shout, which I would love to cuss right now, but if I cussed, then this would not be shared by YouTube's algorithm and reach less people, but that's messed up. We all have masculine and feminine attributes, every single human being. And if you're denying a part of yourself, feeling emotions or standing up for yourself, then you're gonna feel empty because you're literally ignoring a part of who you are. And to feel fulfilled, you need to realize that you do have masculine and feminine attributes, and both of them are equally as important and equally as powerful. And until our society understands that, we're going to feel some emptiness and some problems and some sicknesses as a society. So there they are, the Hermetic Principles. And do you think you can prove any of them wrong? Even if you don't, wow, those are pretty freaking powerful and amazing, aren't they? So I tried tying back each one of these into how you can use it to build wealth. But as you've probably understood by this point, that is so much deeper than just money. And if you like learning valuable content about wealth and in some instances, pretty much all instances, because everything can fit under the umbrella of wisdom, definitely subscribe to this channel. If you think you can prove it wrong, then watch Mark Passio's or Ralph Smart's video just to make sure you understand it before you start wasting my time trying to prove this wrong. And anyways, I really hope that you use this to create exactly what you want to create in your life. And in the next episode of Why You're Not Rich Yet, 10 biggest reasons stopping or slowing your wealth, we're going to come back down to earth. I know this presentation was pretty crazy, but in the next episode, I'm going to show you the exact 10-step vetting system that we've used to find over 20 profitable opportunities that are consistently making people a lot of money. And I'm also going to show you our biggest breakthrough on why, even if people get into the most lucrative industries and the best opportunities within the industries, why most people fail. 90% of businesses fail. The financial industry makes the most millionaires and billionaires, but 90% of people who try to trade themselves lose money. 80% of real estate agents, one of the most credible money-making industries out there, don't even last 3 years. And this 10-step vetting system is not only gonna show you the best money-making opportunities and the best money-making industries, but it's also gonna show you how to increase your success rate from 10% to over 90%, because it's not just about finding what's making money. It's about finding what's in alignment with your values. And I've seen incredible success about people finding their favorite opportunities of their life using this 10-step vetting system. So definitely subscribe for more content. Share this with anyone you think would benefit from this or can win 10,000 bucks. And I just want to say I'm so grateful for you sticking through this presentation. And if you want to take any of the content of this video, this is like so sacred that I claim no rights to any of this. You can use any of this for sharing it with whoever you want. Personally, I feel like the more people know this, the better the world's going to be overall. So really appreciate you taking the time to learn this for yourself. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video.